What's up, Weirdos? I'm Chris Weir, and this is the Chris Weir Experience. And today we are on episode number 27 of the Daily. 27.
27.
It does not feel like 27. We're what is that?
27.
What is that? That's our just past our silver. Is 25 your silver?
Aw, and I didn't get you anything.
Yeah, you did. You got me. No, that wasn't you. Never mind. I about said you got me Black Label, but that wasn't.
I was going to be very embarrassed here. Yeah, I got you the Black
Yes,
Label.
I
Yeah,
did
good
that,
for me. All right.
No, it was
right.
much better man than you got me the black. No, I'm just kidding.
Damn.
Wow.
Damn.
That's a good
Truthfulness.
Yeah.
Truthfulness.
Well, it's a good shout out to Chris Seaver there. Thank you very much for the Black Label last week. But anyway, so this week though, on episode 27 of the Daily Weirdo, I want to talk about a very sensitive subject, and I think one that is going to be fun to talk about. I think it's an important one to talk about. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about the role or the place of your spouse and your kids in your entrepreneurial venture, right?
Yeah.
So where are the kids and the spouse in all of this? How are they affected? What is their role? How do they help us? How in some cases do they even hurt us? So we're going to explore all those topics.
How about hinder, not hurt?
Hinder? Okay, we'll run with hinder.
I like hinder.
That sounds
doesn't sound as
softer.
Mean. Yes, exactly. It sounds
kinder. Yes. So that's going to be the topic today. So I'll get started, and I'll tell you why I thought about having this topic and thought about going to this topic is about a month ago, and we talked about it on one of the episodes, as I was going through one of my tough boxes of all my military stuff, right?
Oh, okay.
And I think about this all the time. I'm from a military family. I was in the military. My father was in the military. My brother was in the military. My brother-in-law is in the military. I mean, so there's a lot of us that are in the military in my family, and something that I've always thought about, and then when I went into the military, realized even more, is I think as a country we're getting really good, I believe, at thanking our service members and making sure that they know that we appreciate their sacrifice and what they're doing for us every single day. I think where we have a huge opportunity for improvement is making sure the families of those service members
definitely
know how much we thank them as well, because
and how much they sacrifice.
They do, because especially at time of deployment, they're just as deployed as the service member, probably, and I would venture to say, even more so.
Wow, yeah.
You know, I mean, you think about it like from the standpoint of the service member, right? When I was over there, one of the things that we constantly had to share with our spouses was no news is good news. Because anytime something happened, all communication shut down on the post, and we couldn't communicate. There would be weeks that we would go and not be able to communicate if something had happened. Like if a fellow service member had been killed or something to that effect, they shut all communication down. Obviously, for the sake of informing the family and for security reasons, they don't want any of this to get out, and it's a very good reason for them to do that. I'm not criticizing,
but it's so stressful on the families.
But it is. They have no idea.
We
can't give them a warning.
Yeah, you can't just tell them, "Hey, I'm fine, honey. Hey, I'm fine, honey. Hey, I'm fine, honey.
Hey, we're going to go down for the next couple of weeks. Right. You know, this happened, so it's no big deal. I'm good." You can't do it. It's just nothing. Like we could literally, and this happened many times. We did the Skype thing, right? Where we were talking on video conference, and many times we would get hit by a mortar. The post would get hit by a mortar. 9.999 times out of 10, they were out in the field somewhere and didn't even do anything. But when they came in, all communication shut down, and the Skype session would just end. And I can only imagine on the other side of that call, that video call, you know, Candace going, "Oh God, okay.
All right, this again."
And now for the next week and a half, you have to wait until communication comes back up to make sure that I'm okay. But what we always said is, look, if you don't, the second anything happens to a soldier, they're automatically informing the family. I mean, they're very, very good about that, right? So it's like, no news is good news. If you're not hearing anything, I'm probably okay, right? Try to tell that to a wife who has two kids,
exactly.
Right? I mean, that goes in one ear and out the other, right? I mean, the stress is just.
I realize that, but I'm not going to live that way. type of thing, because I'm still just waiting by the phone.
Exactly, right?
Type of thing.
So, I mean, as the service member, I'm over there and you know, as much as you can be in control of yourself, especially in those type of circumstances, I at least know what's going on.
Right.
Where, you know, she was back home clueless. So I think, you know, I guess when I think about the correlation between military spouses and spouses of entrepreneurs, obviously we are talking about two totally different things. We're talking about life and death versus just the
just life.
Yeah, the tediousness of being a spouse of an entrepreneur. But I think there are some parallels that I've at least been able to kind of uncover in my own life. I think there's some parallels there. So yeah, I think spouses need more credit. Military spouses need more credit. They need more thanks. We need to be doing more for the spouses. The service members are taken care of pretty good. Yes, there are some deficiencies. Yes, we have some issues with the VA. Yes, there's things that we can do better. No question about it. But where we definitely can do a lot better, and I think it's a relatively easy thing, is helping the families and being there for the families. So that's what got me thinking, right? So that was a big setup to basically, that's kind of what got my mind going, and the parallels, and started you know, thinking about and kind of uncovering the parallels. I'm very curious, before I go into spilling all of the parallels that I found, right, in that particular circumstance. I really want to give you a chance. We talked just a little bit before I hit record here, and we started actually recording this. But you brought up a really, really good topic, and I shut you up because I didn't want to waste any good stuff, and I really loved where you were going with that. And so I actually want to stop for a second. I want you to kind of hit on that and what you dealt with, you know, today, and kind of what got you going in that mindset.
Well, it's all. And I think the best way for me to say it, and the best way I was thinking about it, was just like you want to manage your clients' expectations, you need to manage your kids' expectations, and you also need to manage your wife's expectations. With what you just said, I mean, into my mind popped communication, which is a key part of, once again, managing expectations. Yeah. I'm going to hit on the kids first, because I think they're a factor. I think the wife is or spouse, my apologies, wife in my case, is a very important factor, but the kids are in there too. Yeah. And the biggest thing about the kids is that you have to realize that if you're telling them, hey, you know what, especially with me, I have a home office. If you're telling them, hey, dad is in work from 8 to 5, you know, don't bug him.
Right.
Don't bug them with the little stuff of life. Yes, if, you know, the dog just ate Jenna, yes, please come and get me.
Right.
You know, there are certain things there that, yes, it is.
Yes.
But you also have to realize, too, it goes the opposite. You know, the opposite is true, too. You need to be there for them when you are not being the entrepreneur. Yeah. You need to say, hey, you know what, if I'm coaching your flag football, if I'm coaching your soccer team, you are there coaching, and you are there 100% coaching. You need to do that too, to make sure that they know that they have a place in your life, and your life is just not.
Well, and you know, and one of the things that I thought about when you were going there earlier is one of the things that I think I have a huge opportunity for improvement. I am not good at this piece, is where I say, leave me alone during these hours, right? I need concentration, you know, whatever. And I push and push and push you guys, you know, give me that time, obviously barring emergencies. But at the same time, I can't go out there and, hey, let's do lunch.
Right.
Just randomly.
Right.
Or, hey, I want to, let's go do that. Right. I mean, I think you said earlier, you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? I mean, it's like, so I'm really bad about that. Is like, I will, not that I'm scolding, because it doesn't get to that. It's not scolding, but it's me constantly bringing up, look, too many interruptions today. I really, really need, especially on this day of the week is my creative day. I need the time. But then go out there, and because I get an
or the next
inkling
day
to be with, for whatever reason, I just want to be with my daughters or my wife or whatever. So I go out there and I want to have lunch with them, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. It's like, you got to be fair with that, right?
Well, and yeah, and today I got all hurt because, you know, I went in to see how my wife and kids were doing. It's a holiday, and all. And they'd say, oh, well, we're going to do this, this, and this, and then we're going to go to lunch. And I'm like, I'd like some lunch. But they're respecting exactly what I asked them to do. They are doing exactly what I said for them to do to basically, hey, I need to work. And then I'm over here getting all butthurt because I wasn't invited to lunch.
And then how are they supposed to process that? So is it, okay, well, maybe I do
only
need to bother
when you
him.
want it, Dad? Oh, really? Only when you want it, Dad?
It's a very, very selfish thing for us to do, I think, to have that expectation of them, but then not live up to that expectation ourselves, right? And I think I'm pretty bad about that. And I think a lot of the challenges that I have, and we're certainly going to explore these today, but some of the challenges that I have, especially with interruptions, I get that a lot now that I'm working at home and I don't have an office yet, and working from home, I get interrupted constantly. But you literally hit me, and I was ready to. I'm gonna be straight up and honest. I was ready to get on here to go. I get interrupted every single day. This episode was going to be me complaining about being being interrupted. And then you said that before we started recording, and I thought, oh my gosh, like that was like a huge mirror that went up in front of me, where I'm like, oh my God, I'm out there interacting with them just as much as they are in here interacting with me. What am I telling? They have no idea what my expectation is.
Oh yeah,
because I'm contradicting it on a consistent basis, right?
And it's so funny because I never thought of it. I never really thought of this until we kind of started talking about, hey, we might have this topic and all that. Right. It's like, whoa.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
And this is the relevance of this is for those of you who are working from home, right? I mean, if you have an office, you have a location, it's probably not as relevant. I do remember when I first started my last agency and we got our first office. There in the very beginning, they would show up randomly with no notice. They would just pop in to surprise me, right? And that was their way of showing me how much they loved me. To me, it was like, okay, you're interrupting my day. It's very frustrating, whatever. But yeah, so it can be relevant to those that have an office, but I think it's more relevant to those working at home, right? I mean, would you agree with that? Yeah.
Well, and then we have the special added benefit of both of our wives homeschool our kids.
We homeschool. That's right.
So I mean, they are always here.
Exactly.
I mean,
no, you mean they're always here.
Yeah. But then you also see more of when you're going to more places, you're going to more field trips, you're going to more activities, you're going to all these things that you also, as a father, just want to be, or a mother, as a parent, just want to be involved in, and realize you're not. But also, you don't realize, man, would I feel this way if my kid was in public school too, which is kind of a whole different subject. Right. But as far as for the kids, I think it's really just managing those expectations and living up to them.
Yeah. And I think to your point, the communication piece. I mean, I'm not big on giving parenting advice because I think everybody can parent different, and the results are going to be different for every single. I mean, what works for you is not going to work for me.
Every kid is different as well.
Exactly. So.
My kids just have to be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the dynamics of every family, we're not all lucky as you are to have perfect children and a perfect home life. So,
exactly.
The rest of us are struggling but that's okay. I mean, we're getting through it. So, but
I'm not denying it. No, just kidding.
But I mean, in all seriousness, I think it comes down, like you said, to communication. I think whenever we talk about parenting kids and developing kids, I think it always comes down to communication. It's having those tough conversations with them, allowing them to have the tough conversations with you, being there for them, being an ear for them. I mean, you can go on and on and on.
I will tell you, and just being open to them. Hey, this is what I do.
Right.
This is, and if they're worried about, things.
Right.
Well, this is how I work. If you really want to know, I think you'd be open and upfront with them.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you.
Also,
go ahead.
Just kind of rolls us into the spouse and all of that.
Well, you know what? That's funny because that's exactly where I was about to go, because I think one of the things, and just before we go into the spouse, I want to one last thing on the kids. because, for instance, I am now on my second agency, as all of you who listen, who have watched me and seen any of my episodes know. I've just started my second agency. I am very much in the startup stage. I'm very much eating shit every single day. It just is what it is. I have made the conscious decision. The revenue that comes into the business is going back into the business, so I am not taking a paycheck from the business, which obviously adds, the financial stress. Right. That comes with startup, as many of you are reinvesting every single penny back into the business. As if you can, that's what you should be doing at startup, is you should be putting every single penny that you can put into the business. You shouldn't be taking a paycheck if you're trying to grow a business. Eventually we'll get to the paycheck part, hopefully very quickly, but but in the very beginning, you're obviously there. So I only breached that topic ever so slightly to say that kids are not dumb, right?
Oh, amen.
They absolutely know when you're stressed. They know that, you're going through a time that is difficult, that's stressful on you, it's stressful on your spouse. Everybody's relationship is, I don't know, tense. I don't know if that's the right word, but there's certainly a dynamic that wasn't there prior to you starting your business, right? So I think it is very important to at least acknowledge that the kids aren't dumb. They know that something is up, that there's some level of stress. And I think, to the point that you were making, being open in that communication and being open to, well, let me tell you what's going on. I think that's probably 90% of what the kids need. It's just to hear it from you.
Right.
To just talk it through, get it on the table, let them voice whatever they're thinking in their mind, whatever their interpretation of what's going on is, which is not always going to be reality. More times than not, they don't know. So you're just having that conversation with.
Well, and you never know what they hear at school. Oh, your daddy's an entrepreneur. What does that mean? Oh, that means he's out of work. I mean, it's those things of just explaining where you are and what is going on here and what your plans are.
Why are we eating ramen noodles so much?
So,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
What happened? Why did we? Because like our thing, right? And I'll tell you where we are. I mean, we're saving hundreds of dollars. I wish I could even. I'm actually going to do that when we get off. When we finish up, I'm actually going to figure out what that real number is. But where we're saving tons of money is eating out. That's something that we always did. That was something we enjoyed as a family, if you can't tell. We enjoyed as a family is going out and just trying different restaurants, exploring the different areas, especially we were new to Phoenix. So it was, we could constantly go somewhere new, trying all the different resorts and all this kind of stuff. And now, well, we don't have that extra. It had to be $1,000, $1,500. I don't even know.
I could see it easily.
I don't even know.
I could easily
but,
see it.
Whatever it was, now we're choosing not to put that money towards that, and we're putting it toward the business. And now my kids are a little bit older, 15 and 13, so it's not as hard with them. But if they were younger, I could see them saying, well, we used to always go out as a family. Now we're not going out as a family anymore. Is somebody mad? Is something not fully understanding what's happening? So I only say, again, I only breached that topic or I only breached that piece of the topic to just, I guess, encourage as you said, the communication, the sitting down and actually talking that through. I have budget meetings with my kids. We sit down and we have budget meetings. And obviously I'm not getting down in the meetings. I'm not talking balances of accounts and all this kind of stuff, but we're talking, this is how much money we spent going out to eat. This is how much money we spent on gas, taking you guys to places. This is how much money we're spending on this and that and this, so that they can see, oh, okay, I get it.
Right.
I see what's happening. I see why we're not going out to eat. I see all of these different things. And I believe that that's just helping them not to be scared with all of this.
A, it's helping them not to be scared. B, it's getting them, in the reality of life that, hey, not all this stuff is entitled. I love that, my son is driving now. And I said, hey, you know what? Our insurance just raised $100 a month. Hey, and guess what? I think you have a job, don't you? Hey, guess who's going to be paying for the up in insurance?
Sure.
Do you find that? I mean, and he was like,
we
had to talk through him with
$100 a month.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Sorry, Ben.
Mine is about to turn 16. So
Sorry,
there's
man.
a site I need to write. Oh my God. Okay.
But I mean, it's just one of those things of, do you understand, for the privilege of driving,
right.
you
Sure.
know, you're going to pay for that.
Yeah.
He pays his own gas.
I was about to ask you, did he
You
make
know?
you pay his gas?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
then he finally realizes, oh my gosh,
Oh.
it's that much going from here and back again. Oh, it's that
Right,
much to
right.
well, maybe I should have my friends ship in. There you go, buddy.
There, you're thinking
now. You're
now.
starting to think like,
Yeah.
and I don't want to say you're thinking like, entrepreneur. Hey,
Right.
you know what? If you want me to drive you, hey, could you help me out and chip in some money? You know, well, I'm providing you a service to get you somewhere else.
Right.
You know, help me out.
Right. Just
But
get your Uber sticker.
Get your Uber sticker.
So I think at the end of the day, look, I mean, I don't want to keep
So much for keeping it low on the kids. But
well,
anyway.
but I mean, I think again, I think it is very important. I think the kids are probably those that I think more times than not, unfortunately, kind of get missed in this whole thing. I know that my first time around, I did not out of the gate think about how me starting a business and going from 40 hours a week to 80, 90, 100 hours a week. I didn't think about the effect that would have on down the line to my kids. Now, fortunately for me, I had a lot of experienced people around me that helped me and kind of helped me see that very early. So I was able to start adjusting and talking. But of course, my kids were much, much younger then too.
Right.
So it was a little bit different scenario. But yeah, today I think, especially with mine 15, almost 16, we were talking, we both kind of have 2 years left ish, really. And then they're legally adults, and it's like, holy crap. I mean, dude, that's like, so anyway, now I'm not going to go there.
That's a whole
so
nother
let's rein it back in here off the kids. So I think the biggest thing is communicate, right? So just communicate with your kids. Well, let's go on to the spouse.
And to the spouse too. I think it's the same type of idea. I just think it's a greater scope and a greater scale. Definitely communication.
Well, they're privy to much more information.
Exactly.
Right?
And as well they should be.
They should be.
And also the management of expectations. Mm-hmm. And I have a question for you.
Oh, geez.
Do you consider your wife to be a partner in your business?
I'm going to say the first thing.
I have my answer.
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is no, I don't.
I agree.
To be perfectly honest with you, I think she certainly deserves to know what's happening. I don't want her feeling like she's completely in the dark on what's happening with 2 Second Media, right? Like this veil of secrecy over where I'm at with my client load, where we're at with revenue, where we're at with getting close to the office, and all these different things. I think it's very important that I communicate those things to her. I guess I probably look at her more as a shareholder than I do a partner. Right?
I was just going to say I kind of see her, or at least my wife, kind of more as I don't even say board of trustees really. Mm-hmm. But someone managing member. I don't know if you want to go to the LLC type of idea. They need to know what is going on I think the macro scale. Once again, no. Am I going to say, hey, I have this client, A, B, C, and D, or I might just do, say, hey, yeah, we have jobs coming in, et cetera. But I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of all of that. Mm-hmm. But definitely, if there is a problem, I want to be communicating. Sure. If there's not a client coming in, we need to have that communication, because then we need to put some brakes on some other things.
No negative surprises.
No, exactly.
No negative. You have good surprises. Don't have any negative surprises.
And don't have, hey, Scott, why did we not get a paycheck? This, or why was the expectations of that we would have this much in the bank account every other week or whatever, met.
Right.
Those are the big
And if you would have just communicated, well, this client is
Exactly.
this situation, so it's going to be doubled down the next time. It's all going to work itself out. It's just going to be, oh, okay, got it.
Right,
No problem.
got it.
I understand.
But no surprises. And the biggest thing, because I think it only happened once, is like when her debit card got rejected for no funds. And that was, my fault for not getting, the check in. I was, and all that type of stuff. Some of those things, some of those are mistakes. Some of them are whatever, but no, once again, be transparent.
Right.
Have the communication. For me, Tracy is definitely not my partner, but I will tell you she is my therapist. Type of thing. And that's something nice to have. And it's a different type of role, I think, really, for your spouse when you're an entrepreneur. I mean, was she a therapist when I worked for a firm? Yeah, no. Mm-hmm. But I think there's much more.
She was an ear.
She was
maybe
an ear.
more so.
She was like, "Hey, how was your day?"
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? This other
and you know what?
client, blah blah blah.
I've always been. I'm not going to say jealous because I'm not that type of person. Like I've always been able to look at somebody else and say, "That's really cool. I really like how they're doing their life," but not be envious of that. Like I'm very content with how I'm doing my thing, and if I want something to change, I'll work on changing it. But I don't ever sit there and say, "I wish I was them." But I do look at those, I guess you could call them, I don't know, the power couples, right? Where the husband and wife are like freaking on it, man. Like they're both got business sense. They could be partners in the business where they can both think through. That is not my situation at all. My wife she is the furthest thing from an entrepreneur. She is completely risk adverse. She is not. She's not a risk taker even a little bit. She gets stressed very, very easily, especially when we're talking finances. Yep. But she gets stressed over pretty much everything, quite frankly. But definitely the finances. When we started the business this time around, I took over our family finances. She was paying the bills.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
So yeah, I mean, I was always responsible for putting the money in. She was responsible for taking it out, right? So that I took over that piece of it, just so she didn't have to see it. So
she didn't have to see it, and she wouldn't be stressed about it.
That's right.
So that was the thing of protecting her from this. But then it's also the thing too of where you would keep her, advised of, hey, where we're at, and we're
that's the struggle. Look, here's the struggle for me, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is one I don't have figured out yet, and it's something that Candace and I are working very, very hard on. It's something that we talk about quite frequently, but it's at what level do I need to communicate to her? So I think that's why I said when you ask me, do I think of her as a partner? I think of her more as a shareholder, right? And if you think about shareholders, you don't give them the day to day. Right, I mean, they don't give a flip about the day-to-day. It's the monthly, quarterly, annual shareholders meeting. That's all that they care about. They're looking at reports. They're looking at
how are we doing? Are we having a
foot.
downtrodden? Are we having an uptrend? Or what's going on here?
They are never down in the weeds.
Right, but at the same time, it's always the best to be proactive instead of reactive with it. Just like you were saying, no bad news, or no bad surprises.
Right. No bad surprises.
Sometimes there is bad news.
Right.
Hey,
well, I mean, that's just what it is. But
I had a client who was threatening to sue me for $20,000. Right. Hey, I'm going to tell my wife about that because I don't want it to be a surprise.
Give her a heads up.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, this
surprise.
By the way, just want to let you know he settled for $2,000 once he found out that. Never mind. We won't go there.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. But
it's still $2,000 of blackmail. I just want to say that for the whatever. Can we edit that out?
Wow.
Can we edit that out?
That's awesome. So I guess how I look at it is, like I said, you've got those couples that are kind of the power couples that are just, they're on it, daggone it. They could be partners if they wanted to be. And they're just both moving in the same direction, and that works for them. And that's wonderful. If Candace and I tried to do that, it wouldn't work.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking about me and Tracy.
It wouldn't work for us at all. In no way, shape, form, or fashion would that be healthy. We would absolutely end our marriage.
Well, and my wife, and my wife is definitely a mama bear. Mm-hmm. And she's protective of the family. She's protective of this. Hey, that client hasn't paid in 15 days. You write him a letter. You take him to.
Right.
Hey, no, whoa! Cool the jets here,
yeah.
sister.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how this is done. There are expectations of a 30-day grace, and and there's a process for this. We just don't go after them guns blazing. With SEAL Team 6 on our tail here.
That's funny.
But I understand too, because once again, she's a mom bear. She wants to make sure that her house, her kids, her marriage, her household is protected.
Yeah.
For that. And I am in the same way with you. I don't think Tracy and I could ever be partners. in
Let
a
me ask you
business type
this,
thing.
though.
But
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
also, I don't think she and I ever want to be, because I really enjoy having separate experiences that we have to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because for me,
I agree.
I mean, being in
such a good-
being in business with my wife would be, what would we talk about?
Right.
I mean, would it just be all work? I mean, of course we have our kids, we have our, all of that, but
And again, even those that do that, it's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
Oh, no,
because
no,
I mean,
no.
for
Because
you
some people,
personally,
some people are
Right.
wired that they
Right.
can do that.
Exactly.
I want to be able to come home and be mad about something or whatever without
Right.
her having an opinion on that person or on that situation.
Right.
That she would back me up, and I would feel like, hey, I just need to vent, and I just need to vent. Not, once again, don't have it fix it, don't have it whatever. I just need to vent, type of thing, and that's nice to have.
Let me get your perspective on something, if I could,
Sure.
and you guys as well. So comment on this,
Please.
because this is something that I am struggling with. So I'm seeking
Okay.
help here, right? One of the things that Candace and I struggle with is how much is too much information, how much is not enough, right? If I'm
Wow.
sitting there and letting her know, again, I don't want bad surprises, but I also know that not every piece of bad news needs to go across her desk either, right? I mean, it's like she doesn't have to know every negative thing that happens, because our business, I think probably this is the case for most businesses, at least what I've experienced, definitely with the ad agency world. Our business is a roller coaster. I mean, it can literally be this day. We are about to sign. I have sent out a contract for one of the largest deals, and the next day they've changed their mind and they're not moving forward, and all of a sudden we don't have the deal, and 2 weeks later they're back on, and it's like, oh my God, it's just this up and down all the time. And if I tried to drag her along on the roller coaster ride,
Well, once again, this is shareholder versus partner type of idea. No, I don't think you can. I don't think you should let them know everything that happened in that day. I think there's some times that, when I just come in, it's just been a hard day with some clients, just some miscommunication, just some, this and that. I had to spend another 8 hours on this project to get this done. How much do you share?
Yeah.
There's been several projects where I go, hey, I threw $700 at this guy just to, make him happy and all that. Do I share that with Tracy? No. Sorry.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing, though. But I think it's funny that you bring that up, because until you and I, 2-3 months ago, whenever we started meeting every single week, and off the camera. I mean, we started meeting. We have our own conversation
we had our own
where
little
we kind of brainstorm through stuff.
Sure.
Until I had that, and I think, unfortunately, and I say with a capital U, unfortunately, most entrepreneurs do not have that accountability partner like you and I have,
right?
That we're completely disconnected from each other's businesses. Neither one of us have invested in the other. We have absolutely no vested interest other than our friendship in the success of the other. It's really completely objective listening and feedback. And until I had that, one of the things that I constantly struggled with was, I've got to get this off my head.
Oh, amen.
I can't keep all of this bottled up. We've got so many things going all different directions in the business. I just need to vent.
Right.
And so the thing is, that's what a spouse is for, right? They're supposed to be the person you can vent for.
In
but
your
now,
life,
when you're an entrepreneur, that changes.
Yeah, in your life, yes. If I was working with a firm, would I still confide in her? Would I still say, hey, the bosses did this? Would I still look for her support or her opinion? Yes, yes, and yes.
Right.
In an entrepreneur's way, it's different.
Yeah, it is.
It is way different.
It's very different.
I can ask her things about, being an employee, because she's been an employee. She's been working for people. She knows what she liked about her bosses. She knows how she reacted to these things.
Right.
She knows those things. That's, in that realm. So it's possible that I can, I can say bounce those ideas off of her.
Right.
With an entrepreneur way, yes, there are some things, but there are other things, I've tried. I say, hey, what would you, I'm having problems with this.
Yeah.
And she says something, and I was like, okay, I'm going to, I said, okay, thank you. And I knocked that down in my mind. That's one thing I definitely will not do. But it gets me closer to, to that thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's.
And it's probably, and I think the answer is probably it's different for everybody.
Well, it is
you
different.
have to know your spouse. You've got to know what they can take and what they can't take, and I think that evolves over time. I think what Candace can take today is significantly more than what she could take when
true, because they do grow with you.
Sure, of course.
And I will tell you one thing: the nice thing about having an accountability partner, just
a venting partner,
whatever it is, Scotch partner, whatever it wants to be. It's kind of nice because, you can, there's been several times when we talked when I had a more clear direction of where I was going to go.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it's almost like when I come back and tell my wife, she asks, oh, hey, what did you think about this, and this? If I shared it with her, I said, oh, I'm going to be going this direction. And then it's almost like, hey, honey, I figured it out. Here you go. And then she's confident that, okay, hey, you're going in a direction now. You're not stalling. You're not whatevering. Great.
Right. It gave her the confidence.
And it gave her the confidence too.
Your decision. Right. Because you made one. Right.
Because you made one, and you're not once again getting your ducks in a circle. I mean, a lot of things coming back in, in the thing here. But I think it also gives her that confidence that yes, you can do this. Not that I think she ever didn't have confidence.
Right.
But at the same time, there's still that concern. There's still that mama bear attitude of, hey, I just want to make sure that my family's protected.
Right.
And that my family's going to survive.
Right. Yeah. And I think so you've got that, you've certainly got that element where it's the stress that the spouse bears. And it's certainly not something that we want them to have to bear. I mean, I certainly don't want her to be stressed.
We have to step back, especially if you have a family. We can only do what we do because of what they do. Mm-hmm. I mean, just like going back to the military families, my wife is the one, yes, I am involved with my kids, but she is more involved.
Yeah, sure.
She is the one who's taking that stress off of me so that I can focus on, the entrepreneur side. She's the one that making sure, hey, the kids are up and ready and, doing all that before they go to school, before, they start their lessons, before she goes to preschool, and all of that. So I just have to say that too is, yes, they're possibly not my partner in business, but they are your partner in life.
Oh, well,
and I think they also need to be told that consistently, along with that communication of, hey, here's where the business is. There has to be that constant thing of, thank you for allowing me to do this.
So let me ask you a question. I maybe a couple of weeks ago, I don't even remember when it was now, what episode it was, but I did a daily Weirdo on work-life balance, and the thought that I gave out was there, and what I do believe this very deeply is, I don't believe in work-life balance. I don't think that it's possible. I think it's a myth. I think it separates the two. It makes it sound like work is here and life is there, when as an entrepreneur, that's not the case. They are very much intertwined. I think that you can seek work-life harmony, but when one is more demanding than the other, you're going to be pulled in that direction. Sometimes work is more demanding. Sometimes exactly. Right. It depends on the time. So having said that, and I do believe that to my core. Now let's bring that back around to what we were just talking about is she's my partner in business. Excuse me, she's my partner in life, but not my partner in business. Ooh, don't let me mess that one up. So here's a tough question, right? If work and life are actually not separated, are we going the right path trying to separate our wife's role? Or is that...
Here's the thing is harmony. And I love that word.
Yeah.
Because it says so much. How much you're going... And it's going to take some time to learn what are those chords that need to be struck and in what order they need to be struck and how often do they need to be struck to create that harmony, in that. How much information can she handle?
Right.
How much information does she want? You know?
Yeah.
And as long as you are producing what her expectations are of what you guys hopefully have agreed to, you know, to provide, then there should be that harmony, you know, type of thing. Have there been plenty of nights, you know, when I was first starting this that, you know, I would, you know, get out of my office at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, you know, come in, have dinner, have some time with the kids, whatever, and go back and work at 9 o'clock to midnight, and my wife would already be in bed without me? Yes, there were plenty of times. But then you have to take those times of saying, do you understand why I'm doing this? Do you understand I'm doing this for our family? And then it's getting that harmony of still trying to say, you are very important to me, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I don't mean et cetera, just yada, yada, yadaing it off.
Sure.
But I think that's the very important part of saying, you know, I'm not doing this because, you know, I want to be away from you.
Right.
But I'm doing this to create that harmony. I'm doing this so that we can get past this point.
And I think that just kind of cosigns the idea of communication. I think, you know, it's kind of what we started with, and we're kind of here again. I mean, it's this constant. I think having the ability to sit down in whatever structure that is, or lack of structure, it doesn't really matter. It's whatever works for you. If you have it in a meeting format, if you have it in, you know, you go out to dinner and you go to a quiet restaurant and you have a glass of wine and you're just talking about it, or if you're staying at home and the kids are out, you get, you know, I don't know, the kids go out with friends or something, you have your night, whatever it is, where and maybe it's much less formal, maybe it's just in passing, maybe it's just in your regular conversation, whatever it is, at the end of the day, it's communicating and keeping her up to speed on as much as she can handle to the point that you make. Now, let me ask you this. Let me throw the curveball on this, right?
Okay.
Wait
a minute.
What about the spouse? It could be the man or woman. Doesn't really matter. The entrepreneur. When you're an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur. It is what it is. And you can try to avoid it. You can dodge it. You can duck it as much as you want to. But when you're a true entrepreneur, you're only going to be happy doing what you do, right? So you will constantly have that tugging. You're going to constantly have something pulling you toward your passion, whatever that might be, whatever business it is that you want to be in, or whatever it is that you're wanting to do. You're going to constantly have that tugging you toward that thing. What about, and I'm fortunate not to have this, you're fortunate not to have this, but there are so many that do have a spouse that isn't on the same page, that's not there. And no matter how much you try to communicate, no matter how many different ways you lay it out in charts and graphs and you know, and whatever you can think of, that the spouse is just not on the same page. I'm just curious for you personally, because I think this is going to be something that each person has to answer for themselves, and I don't believe that this is something that we can give advice on, but I'm just very curious from your perspective. If at any time Tracy came to you and said, I'm clocking out, I'm done, I don't like this, we need to try something different. Your mind's not there, your heart's not there.
Right.
What do? How do you handle that?
That is a hard question, because it's kind of like one of those scenarios, you know, that you say, hey, what would you do in this scenario when you've never been in that scenario?
Yeah, sure.
You know, hey,
where would you start?
And this is what kind of came into mind. Hey, if you were being carjacked, would you give them the car or would you fight?
Yeah.
You know, type of thing. And I don't know why that, you know, image came into my mind. But I think it would take a lot of talking, you know, because you're now asking me to choose between my two loves, type of thing. Now,
because I did have an episode before where I talked about the business is absolutely another child. Your business is your child. It's your baby. You think about what you do for your business, the time that you spend for your business, how you hurt for your business, how you think about your business, how you try to protect your business, how you nurture your business. It's a kid. I mean, it's absolutely a kid.
Well,
and it gets just as much time, if not more, in some cases.
And I will say in a lot of sense that it was, it's way different than even just when I had a job working for City Spaces.
Sure.
or for another.
Well, that wasn't your baby.
Firms. That wasn't my baby. I mean, I have a good work ethic. I want to get my jobs done, but I knew, hey, I'm going on vacation for these 2 weeks. See you later. Bye.
Yeah.
Here you go.
You clocked out.
I clocked out. Now when I go on vacation, I don't clock out.
No, there's no.
I have a computer with me, and it's something that, I mean, all hail to Tracy. I mean, she just understands.
So what would you say to the couple that are struggling, where they are just on two totally different pages?
I think this is where that idea of communication expectations. Why are you not on the same page? What are you not getting from me being an entrepreneur that you want? Because maybe it's something that I could provide. Maybe it's something that she just, you know what, I want to have a constant paycheck. You know what? I think I could find a way to make sure that you saw a constant paycheck.
So you're going exactly where I wanted you to go. It's really amazing that you are, because we. Well, but I mean,
it's one of those things of which one do you want? I don't think anything has to be a. I want to say I never want to say, hey, you're going to do either or. I want to say, hey, you can have both and.
So here's the thing, right? So I'm going to start with the spouse. So for you entrepreneurs, if you have a spouse who simply does not want you to be happy, right? And they just don't want you to follow that passion, and you're like, oh crap, what did I do? This is one of those cases where I say, get a divorce. However, I would say in most cases that's not what it actually is. To your point, communicate, talk, find out what the actual. I always say get it down to the smallest denominator, right? Get it down to the smallest factor, because when it comes down to that, to your point, it might be just the security of a regular paycheck. I can show you 15 different ways how to have a regular paycheck while you're in startup. As a matter of fact, if you stay tuned this week and look at a different I don't remember what episode it is going to be this week, but I talk about what I'm doing right now to be able to actually be able to afford to live, because I'm not taking a check.
And at the same time, I mean, it's the same with me. Yes, I am more established.
Sure.
Right now.
Right.
But still, I have ups and downs. Mm-hmm. I have areas months where, hey, I haven't invoiced anything for 2 months and all this. How does this work? Mm-hmm. So there are ways to get it into where there is that stable paycheck, and that, the spouse sees that money coming in, and that's our living money.
And maybe it's not the check, though. Maybe it's not finances. Maybe it's time.
Maybe it's time.
Maybe she just needs to see you for a couple of hours before she goes to bed, or he goes to bed.
And the amazing thing with that's easy enough to do too. You schedule your clients, you schedule this, you can schedule time with your kids. Absolutely. You can schedule time with your wife. There was a time in, whatever that, I said, hey, I don't take meetings after 2:00 on Friday. Because after 2:00, from 2 to 4, for some reason, both our kids were doing something, and that was Tracy and my time. Yeah. That we would go out to a little restaurant, we'd go out to a wine bar, we'd go out, to some place to just sit and talk. Yeah. And if it happened to do with business, if it happened to do with the kids, if it just happened to do with, hey, do we want to try? Can we shoot for a vacation this year? What can we, do? Yeah. You are living life with this person. Yeah. And you do have a life partnership with this person.
I think it's like most situations in life, and I guess the only thing that I would encourage, and again, it's not so much, I don't want to say that it's necessarily advice per se, but I guess I would just encourage that if you feel like you're in a situation where your spouse is on a completely different page than you are, and you're seeing that it's beginning to affect your relationship, your marriage, if it's beginning to affect your relationship with your kids, whatever the case is, get down to that smallest denominator. What is it that is actually the problem? That's exactly what I had to do with Candace. Candace and I talked for a very long time about 2-Second Media before I ever launched it. We had months and months and months of conversation. I think I even came to you very, very early in us thinking, and it could have possibly even been a year after we started our conversations on whether or not I was going to open another agency again. But regardless, it was a lot of conversation, and it took a lot of time for me to figure out exactly what it was that Candace's hesitation was. She just was not comfortable saying, yes, let's move forward. And I respected our relationship enough. And let me rephrase that because I don't want it to sound like you're disrespecting if you don't. I think it's I knew my wife well enough that I knew that if we just kept talking it through, we would come to a place where she would do it my way. No, that's not that she would understand where I was coming from. Right. I would understand where she was coming from, and we would find a common ground.
Well, it's that whole idea, once again, looking at a problem, and I've used this analogy a lot of times. I love the analogy too. Looking at this problem as a cube.
Yeah.
Here's the problem, and I have a cube in my hand. I'm looking at this side of the problem, and I have no problems, but she's looking at this opposite side, and she has her own problems that she's seeing, but I'm not seeing them.
So but it's the same damn cube.
But it's the same damn cube, and then there's other things on the side here that we're not even seeing.
Yeah.
But it's our job. If your spouse is having a problem, saying, "Hey, I see these problems," it's your job to come in and say, "Hey, how can I see your side? Yeah. Can you help me explain? Can you explain to me these sides?"
Yeah.
And once again, how can I say that? What was the word? You can't tell her not to feel that way. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, you shouldn't feel that way. She does.
Yeah.
It's a true feeling for her. Even though in your mind it might not be, what does that matter? You still have to validate her feelings. That was it. You have to validate those feelings.
And I think that's an important point, because if this is your passion and this is truly your heart's calling and what it is that you are convinced you're meant to do this, and this is your thing, right? Then you need to be willing to take the time to do this stuff. If it means that much to you, you should be willing to put the effort in to get your spouse on board. And I think I think this whole conversation is a few things. One, for those of you who are entrepreneurs currently, I hope it's encouragement that you're not alone. That the battles and the frustrations and the disagreements and the sleepless nights and all that, you're not alone. That's entrepreneurship.
That is part of the road.
What is it?
That's part of the road.
Right? I think so. That's one. I hope that this has been encouragement for you. For those of you that are in startup, like myself, who are in the middle of eating the shit, whether you're doing it again or you're doing it for the first time, patience, and communication. It will come. It does not feel like it's going to come. It's every single day. It's like, oh my God, when's the break going to happen? But you have to be able to communicate to your spouse enough.
Exactly.
Right? Not necessarily in the weeds. You don't have to bother them with the day-to-day. Don't hide. If your spouse wants to know certain information, I would venture to say probably share it. Yes. I think you've got to know your spouse. I think it's going to be different for every person. I think you know your spouse. We couldn't sit here and talk specifically to your specific situation. We could only talk to our own. So I think you have to take what we've said and apply that to yourself. But I think it's certainly patience. I think it's certainly communication. The third thing I hope that this episode has been is for those of you that are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, it's not freaking Hollywood. It's hard.
Let's dispel a little myth here.
It's freaking hard.
Let's be part of the Mythbusters right here.
It is. It's a lot of work.
Right.
It's so much strain mentally, physically even.
Oh, yeah.
Financially, emotionally, spiritually. It will challenge you in every area of your life. And if you're thinking that you're about to walk into something that, I get to go on vacation whenever I want to, I get to make my own hours,
right.
Everything's going to be great, I want to wake you up a little bit. And I hope that this is me grabbing you by the collar and shaking you a little bit and saying, don't come into this thinking of some fairy tale deal, because I'm telling you, the fairy tale it exists for 1 out of 1 million entrepreneurs, and I promise you, you're not that one. You're not that one. No, you're going to come in with challenges. You're going to come in with strain, with stress, with disagreements are going to happen. Your relationship with your spouse is going to be challenged in ways that you haven't even experienced yet. I don't care how long you've been married. Exactly. You'll experience strain and stress that you've never experienced, right? I mean, it is so hard to be an entrepreneur. And even though it's cool today, and even though it may sound popular on social media to be an entrepreneur, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry who can rent a Lamborghini or rent a mansion and go and say, oh, here's my whiteboard, let me tell you what to do with this. They're creating this visual of a lifestyle that, I'll tell you this, if you are getting into entrepreneurship and you're trying to open your own business for the stuff, for the Lambo, for the mansion, for the yacht, for the money, right? If you're doing it for that reason, you are going to fail. Period. You're going to fail.
Most likely.
You have to love the process, right? It's kind of what we started this whole journey.
You have to love what you do.
The process.
You know?
You've got to love the shit. You have got to love the challenges. You've got to love the struggles. I'm not saying that you want the struggles, but you have got to love the fact that you know what's going to happen on the other side of that.
Right.
I'm not saying sit there and look for struggles or create challenges for yourself because you love the challenges. That's not what I'm saying is you know what is on the other side of that. And you love the process of fixing problems. Because what you're doing, you're so passionate about.
I love the idea that I can make money off of what I love to do. Mm-hmm. I love that idea.
Sure.
I mean, it's wonderful. Now, is really what I love to do really only about 20% of what I do? But still, that 20% is enough to make the rest of it worth it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
So I guess, again, the third one would be don't come in on a fairy tale, right?
Well,
this is not... This is not going to show up on Disney. I mean, Disney is never going to do a movie about entrepreneurship.
And you might hear about, hey, this guy made $1,000 in a week due to whatever. Well, what did he do the next week and the next week and the next week? Yeah, you know what? It's not something that's possibly going to last from this fairy tale type of thing.
If it even happened in the first place.
If it even happened in the first place.
And that's my thing. Those freaking guys, they're such losers.
Yeah.
And they just frustrate me in so many levels. I can't even be. Because almost every one of them are pushing social media management. It's like you could open your own social media firm. I mean, almost every single one of these jokers are trying to convince people to open a social media firm. So it's a pain point for me in the advertising industry because they are really leading people down a path, especially those that are wanting to start their own agency and they're not wanting to be entrepreneurs. They're not wanting to be a business owner. They're just wanting the financial rewards of a quick dollar from being able to pull the wool over business owners' eyes and take their money in social media. I'm going off on a soapbox. I'm coming back. Here I come.
There we go. Reeling them back in.
I'm sorry.
Get the big net.
Yeah, sorry. So, so yes, back to spouse and family and their role and their purpose. It is one that I don't think can be ignored. I think you have to be eyes wide open with the entire situation. You have to communicate on every level that you can.
Set those expectations.
I think that is so huge. Is setting the expectations, defining what's going to happen. And if it doesn't work, what's our alternatives? But it depends on your spouse too.
Oh, 100%.
Sometimes that you have a spouse that don't need that. They don't need all those details.
Right.
Just go do it. You're good. You got this.
And after a while, those expectations are going to be, okay,
because you proved yourself.
Because you proved yourself.
That's right.
Here. Yeah, I mean, I can go into our whole story once again, but I don't think we need to. I think it's just the idea of, it's the communication, it's setting expectations.
Yep.
It goes for your wife. Grand scope goes for your kids. Mm-hmm. Smaller scope. It goes to the trust. And you're going to have to earn that trust.
Yeah. That's huge. That's a huge part of it. You've got to earn it.
Yeah.
And it comes. It does come. Like, look, I again, even in my first agency, eventually got to the point where Candace knew, because I proved over time.
Right.
Okay, so now you've built a client base. Now you got, was it in the beginning? No. And it's not today, because I'm in startup. So I'm trying to get more clients. And
it's probably also easier because she probably thinks, hey, he did it once before.
It is very different for us.
Why can't he can probably do it again?
Exactly. It is very different for us on our second time around.
Right.
That's right. It is different for us on the second time around, but it's still the same concept. First time around, second time around, third time around. It comes down to the communication. It comes down to setting expectations.
And that is one of the reasons why we want to do this, is to let you guys know. Yeah. Once again, we're not telling you how to do it. We're just going to tell you, hey, expect this to happen.
Exactly.
And hopefully let you know you're not alone on an island, man.
Look, I mean,
you're not alone on an island.
And I guess I think probably one of the things that is disappointing. I mean, that's the only word for it. Is, I mean, you look at the stats today, and I mean, they're all over the board, but I think probably the most common stat is 50% of marriages end in divorce, right? Mm-hmm. I think if someone were to do a study to try to figure out how many marriages of entrepreneurs ended in divorce, I think the number would probably be exponentially higher. I think it's probably much, much higher because of the stresses that come along with entrepreneurship. So go into this knowing that, and I think if you do that and you come in fully expecting that the stress is going to be there, that the challenges are going to be there, and you at least put that out there and you put that on the table, and again, you come through the communication, you come to setting the expectations. My hope is that you and your spouse come out on the other side, because there is another side, that you come out on the other side like Candace and I did, and I know like Tracy and you did, coming out even stronger than ever before. My relationship with my wife is exponentially stronger than it was before I became an entrepreneur, because we had to challenge our relationship in ways that I don't think we ever would have. So there is, through all the stress and all the frustrations and all, there is another side, and it can be much, much, much better for you and your wife, fair, or husband, or whatever, right?
There you go.
That's it, right?
I think we could keep talking about this for another 2 hours.
And we probably will.
I'm sure it probably will.
You and I are going to hang out for a little bit. We're going to keep talking, but...
is that all we have left? Darn. No,
don't worry about that. Store's right down there. So Scott and I are going to stick around. We're going to keep talking, but we're going to let you guys go. Thank you again so much for sticking around with us. Again, another long Monday conversation, but I think these are so valuable. And if you stuck through this and you made it to the end, I think that there's so many nuggets that we've talked about every single Monday that you can take and apply to your life. And that's all that we're doing here, is we're trying to toss you some nuggets to help you out, because we want to see you succeed. We don't want to see you fail.
Exactly.
We really don't. I mean, what the heck good is that of anybody? So we want to see you succeed. So if you do, and in the struggle and in the middle, please, the one thing that means the most to me are the comments. Is leave some comments. Let's talk about it. Tell me the stuff that you're going through, some of the struggles that you've had. I don't care how long you've been in business. Advise the community on stuff that you've done that has worked. Through the years, and that way we all kind of, what is it? The rising tide raises all ships.
Exactly.
Right?
We can build each other up.
Yep. Guys, thanks again. I appreciate it, and we will see you on the next episode of The Daily Weirdo. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
God, I love that talk.